Someone kept leaving passive-aggressive notes on my car about my parking, so I installed a dashcam and caught something unexpected. The notes started 3 weeks ago. I live in a cramped apartment complex where parking is basically a blood sport. Everyone has an assigned spot, but mine is next to this narrow strip where visitors are supposed to park. The first note was tucked under my wiper blade. Your parking is atrocious. Learn to stay in the lines. I looked at my car. I was perfectly within my lines. Maybe an inch over on the left side, but nothing egregious. I crumpled the note and forgot about it. The second note came 4 days later. Still can't park. Are you blind or just inconsiderate? This time I was annoyed. I'd parked even more carefully that day, backing in twice to make sure I was centered. I asked my neighbor Darren if he'd seen anyone near my car. He shrugged and said the complex was full of entitled people. By the fifth note, I was furious. People like you make me sick. You don't deserve to drive. The handwriting was neat, almost elegant. Blue ink, always on white paper, folded precisely in half. Whoever was doing this had time and commitment. That's when I bought the dashcam. $89 on Amazon, installed it myself. It had a parking mode that activated with motion detection. I set it up on a Tuesday night and waited. Wednesday morning, no note. Thursday morning, nothing. I started to think maybe the camera itself had scared them off. Friday morning, there was a note. I see your little camera, I'm not afraid of you. My hands shook as I read it. This person had walked right up to my car, stared at the camera, and left the note anyway. I rushed upstairs and pulled the SD card from the dashcam. The footage was timestamped at 3:47 a.m. I watched as a figure approached my car from the left side, moving slowly. The parking lot lights created harsh shadows, but the camera's night vision was decent. The person wore a dark hoodie pulled up, hands in pockets. They stopped at my driver's side door and stood there for a long moment, just staring. Then they pulled out the note and placed it under my wiper blade with careful precision. But before they walked away, they did something strange. They pressed their palm against my driver's side window and kept it there for nearly 30 seconds, like they were trying to feel something, or leave something behind. Then they looked directly at the camera and pulled down their hood. I stopped breathing. It was Mrs. Hendricks from 3B, the sweet elderly woman who always said hello in the elevator, the one who brought cookies to the building manager every Christmas, the one who'd helped me carry groceries when I sprained my wrist last year. But that wasn't the shocking part. The shocking part was what I saw behind her. In the reflection of my car window, clear as day in the dashcam footage, there was someone else standing directly behind Mrs. Hendricks, a figure in the shadows that she didn't seem to notice, didn't react to, didn't acknowledge at all, and this figure was holding something. I rewound the footage and paused it, zoomed in as much as the video quality would allow. The figure behind Mrs. Hendricks was holding a knife, not a kitchen knife. A hunting knife with a curved blade that caught the parking lot light in a way that made my stomach turn. The figure stood maybe 3 feet behind her, completely still, watching her place the note on my car. Mrs. Hendricks didn't react, didn't turn around, didn't seem aware that anyone was there at all. I watched the footage 5 more times. Each time, the same thing. Mrs. Hendricks approaches, places the note, presses her palm to my window, looks at the camera, and behind her this figure just stands there, motionless, watching. When Mrs. Hendricks finally walks away, the figure doesn't follow her. It stays in frame for another 7 seconds, staring at where she'd been standing. Then it turns and looks directly at the camera. I couldn't make out a face. The shadow was too deep, but I could see eyes, reflecting light like an animal's. Then the figure walked toward the camera, not quickly, but deliberately. It came right up to my windshield and stood there, close enough that the camera should have captured every detail of its face. But the screen went black, not dead, not turned off, just black, like something was covering the lens. 23 seconds of pure darkness, then light again. The parking lot was empty. No Mrs. Hendricks, no figure, just my car sitting alone in its spot. I sat at my kitchen table staring at my laptop until the sun came up. I made coffee, drank it cold, made more. Couldn't stop watching those 23 seconds of blackness, like the answer was hidden somewhere in that void. At 7 a.m., I heard footsteps in the hallway. I looked through my peephole and saw Mrs. Hendricks walking past my door carrying a basket of laundry. She was humming something cheerful. I opened the door. Mrs. Hendricks? She turned, her face breaking into a warm smile. Oh, good morning, dear. You're up early. Can I talk to you for a minute? Of course. She set down her basket and walked over. Up close, she looked exactly as she always did. Soft gray hair pulled back in a bun, reading glasses on a chain around her neck, a cardigan with tiny flowers embroidered on the collar. She smelled like lavender and vanilla. Were you outside last night? Around 3 a.m.? Her smile faltered slightly. Outside? No, dear. I'm in bed by 9 every night. Why do you ask? I didn't know how to answer that. Couldn't exactly say I'd caught her on camera, leaving threatening notes while being stalked by a knife-wielding shadow person. Someone's been leaving notes on my car. Rude notes about my parking. Oh, that's terrible. She touched my arm gently. People can be so cruel. I hope you find out who's doing it. Her eyes were clear, honest, completely guileless. Mrs. Hendricks, have you noticed anything strange in the parking lot lately? Anyone who doesn't belong here? She thought for a moment. Well, there was a man about 2 weeks ago. I saw him from my window around midnight. He was just standing by the dumpsters staring at the building. I called the non-emergency police line, but by the time they arrived, he was gone. What did he look like? I couldn't really tell. It was dark. Tall, maybe? Wearing dark clothes? She paused. Actually, this might sound silly, but there was something odd about the way he stood. Very still, like he was waiting for something. My mouth went dry. Did you see which direction he went? No. I looked away for just a moment to get my phone, and when I looked back, he'd vanished. We talked for a few more minutes before she had to go do her laundry. I watched her walk down the hallway, cheerful and completely normal. Back in my apartment, I pulled up the footage again. This time I watched the entire night, not just the moment Mrs. Hendricks appeared. The first movement on camera was at 1:23 a.m. The shadow figure appeared from the right side of the frame, near the dumpsters Mrs. Hendricks had mentioned. It stood there for 4 minutes, completely motionless, facing my car. Then it walked out of frame. At 2:15 a.m., it appeared again. Same spot, same stance. This time it stayed for 11 minutes before walking away. At 3:47 a.m., Mrs. Hendricks appeared, and behind her, the figure. I called the police non-emergency line, told them I had footage of someone trespassing in my parking lot at night. They said they'd send an officer to look at it. Officer Delgado arrived around 2:00 p.m. He was young, maybe late 20s, with tired eyes that suggested this wasn't his first weird call of the day. I showed him the footage. He watched silently. When it got to the part with Mrs. Hendricks and the figure behind her, he leaned closer to the screen. Can you rewind that? I did. He watched it 3 times. That's definitely someone behind her, he said. But look at the way she's moving. She's not acting like someone who knows they're being followed. Exactly. That's what's so weird about it. And you said this woman lives in the building? Yes. 3B. Mrs. Hendricks. I talked to her this morning, and she denied being outside. Officer Delgado made some notes. Could be sleepwalking or early dementia. Sometimes people do things they don't remember. What about the person behind her? That's the concerning part. He paused the footage on the figure. I'm going to need to keep a copy of this. We'll increase patrols in the area, and I'll talk to your building manager about security camera upgrades. Should I be worried? He didn't answer immediately, which told me everything I needed to know. Keep your doors locked. Park in different spots if you can. And call 911 if you see anything suspicious. Don't approach anyone yourself. After he left, I realized he'd avoided answering my question about whether Mrs. Hendricks had been the one leaving the notes. I pulled them all out from where I'd saved them in a drawer. 7 notes total, all in the same handwriting, same blue ink, same precise folds. I held one up to the light, looking for anything I might have missed before. That's when I noticed something. A tiny smudge in the bottom right corner. Not ink, something else. I took a picture with my phone and zoomed in. It looked like a fingerprint, but not a complete one, just a partial. And it was reddish-brown, like dried blood. I put the note in a plastic bag. Then I bagged all of them. My hands were shaking. I called Officer Delgado back, left a voicemail about the blood. He didn't call me back that day. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept watching the parking lot from my window, lights off, waiting to see if the figure would appear again. At 1:17 a.m., it did. Same spot by the dumpsters. Same unnaturally still posture. It stood there for 6 minutes, then started walking. Not toward my car this time, toward the building entrance. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? There's someone outside my apartment building. They've been stalking the parking lot for weeks. The dispatcher asked for my address and description of the person. I gave her everything I could, which wasn't much. Tall, dark clothing, moving toward the entrance. Officers are on their way. Please stay inside and keep your door locked. I watched from my window. The figure reached the entrance and stopped. Then it turned and looked directly up at my window. I jerked back from the glass. When I looked again, it was gone. Police arrived 7 minutes later. They searched the parking lot, the entrance, the hallways. Found nothing. No evidence anyone had been there. Officer Delgado was one of them. He came up to my apartment. I believe you saw something, he said. But whoever it was is good at disappearing. What about the cameras in the lobby? We checked. Nothing on them from tonight. That's impossible. I saw them walk toward the entrance. The system's been glitchy lately. Building manager says half the cameras aren't recording properly. He paused. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. This situation has some red flags. The notes, the stalking behavior, the fact that they seem fixated on you specifically. I want you to consider staying somewhere else for a few nights. A friend's place, maybe. I can't just leave my apartment because some creep is leaving notes. I understand. But until we figure out who this is and what they want, it's safer. He pulled out his notebook. I got your voicemail about the blood. I'll have the notes tested, but that takes time. Could be days, maybe a week. And what am I supposed to do until then? Be careful. Be aware. And call immediately if anything else happens. After he left, I sat on my couch staring at nothing. I wasn't going to be scared out of my own home, but I wasn't stupid either. I ordered more cameras, one for my door, one for my living room window, one for the bedroom. $400 I didn't really have, but worth it for peace of mind. They arrived the next day. I spent 2 hours setting them all up, linking them to my phone so I could watch from anywhere. While I was installing the door camera, my neighbor Darren walked by. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Just being cautious." He nodded slowly. "I heard police were here last night. Someone said they saw cars in the parking lot." "Yeah, someone's been leaving threatening notes on my car." His face changed. Something flickered in his eyes. "Notes? What kind of notes?" "Just weird stuff. About my parking." "Huh." He shifted his weight. "You know, I've lived here for 6 years. There's always been something off about this place." "What do you mean?" "People come and go. More than normal, I think. And sometimes I hear things at night. Footsteps in the hallway when no one should be awake." "You ever see anything?" He hesitated. "Once, about 2 years ago. I was coming home late from work, maybe 2 a.m. I saw someone standing at the end of the hallway on the 3rd floor. Just standing there in the dark." "Did you report it?" Building manager said it was probably a resident who couldn't sleep. But the way they were standing, it didn't feel right. They were too still, like a statue. After he left, I felt worse instead of better. I finished installing the cameras and triple-checked all my locks. That night, I made a point of parking in a different spot, as far from my assigned space as possible, near the building entrance where there was more light. I checked my phone every 20 minutes. Nothing. Just an empty parking lot and my car sitting under a streetlight. At 2:34 a.m., my phone buzzed. Motion detected on the car camera. I opened the app with shaking hands. Mrs. Hendricks was standing next to my car. Same hoodie as before. Hood up. She placed a note under the wiper blade, then pressed her palm against the window. Same ritual as last time, but this time, I could see her face clearly in the streetlight. Her eyes were closed. She stood there, palm against the glass, eyes closed, swaying slightly, like she was in a trance. And behind her, the figure appeared, stepped out of the shadows between 2 cars, knife visible in its hand, moving slowly toward her. I was already calling 911 before I realized what I was doing. 911, what's your emergency? There's someone attacking a woman in my parking lot, right now. I can see it on my camera. I gave them the address, told them to hurry, and kept watching the screen. The figure moved closer to Mrs. Hendricks, raised the knife, and then stopped. Mrs. Hendricks's eyes opened. She turned around slowly, like she knew exactly where the figure would be, and she smiled. Not a warm smile. Not the sweet, elderly woman smile I'd seen 100 times in the elevator. This smile was wrong. Too wide, too knowing. She reached out and touched the figure's face. The figure dropped the knife. It clattered on the pavement, the sound picked up by my car's microphone. "Mrs. Hendricks said something I couldn't hear. The figure nodded. Then both of them turned and looked directly at my car camera. At me. Mrs. Hendricks pulled out her phone. 3 seconds later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I stared at it, heart hammering in my chest. Let it ring once, twice, 3 times. Then I answered. "Hello?" Silence. Just breathing. "I can see you," Mrs. Hendricks's voice finally said. "I've always been able to see you. What do you want?" The same thing everyone wants. To be remembered. To matter. Her voice was different now. Younger. Sharper. "Do you know what it's like to be invisible? To walk past people every day and have them look right through you? You're not invisible. Everyone in this building knows you." She laughed. It sounded like breaking glass. "They know Mrs. Hendricks, the sweet old lady with cookies and cardigans. But they don't know me. They never did. Who are you?" "I'm the woman whose husband beat her for 40 years. I'm the woman whose children stopped visiting because I was too embarrassing, too damaged, too much. I'm the woman who tried to kill herself 3 times and failed every time. I'm the ghost who's still alive." Police sirens in the distance, getting closer. "The notes," I said. "Why?" "Because you park in the spot that used to be mine. Before they took my license away. Before they took everything away. I sit in my apartment and watch you come and go, living your life. And I think about how easy it would be to take that away from you. Like everything was taken from me. And the figure? The person with the knife?" The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. "There is no figure," she finally said. "There's only ever been me." On my phone screen, I watched Mrs. Hendricks standing alone in the parking lot. The figure was gone. Had it ever been there at all? But you saw what I wanted you to see. What I needed you to see. Because I'm tired of being invisible. The police cars pulled into the parking lot. Lights flashing. Mrs. Hendricks didn't move, just stood there, phone to her ear, watching them approach. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" "For seeing me." Finally, she hung up. I watched from my window as the police surrounded her. She didn't resist, didn't run, just stood there with her hands at her sides, that same wrong smile on her face. They took her away in handcuffs. Gentle because she was elderly and frail-looking, but handcuffs nonetheless. Officer Delgado came to my apartment an hour later. He looked exhausted. "She confessed to everything," he said. "The notes, the stalking, the calls. Apparently she'd been having some kind of psychotic episode for the past month. She stopped taking her medications after her son put her dog down without telling her." "What about the figure? The person with the knife?" He shook his head. "There was no one else. We checked every frame of your footage. She was alone the entire time." "That's impossible. I saw someone behind her, clear as day. Our tech guy thinks it might be a digital artifact. Something about the way the camera processes shadows and light. It can create the illusion of movement, of figures that aren't really there." He paused. The human brain is really good at finding patterns, seeing faces in random shapes, especially when we're scared. I know what I saw. I believe you believe that. After he left, I pulled up all the footage again, watched every second of every night. He was right. Frame by frame, analyzed carefully, the figure behind Mrs. Hendricks was just a shadow, a trick of light and perspective, and my own paranoid brain connecting dots that weren't there. But there was one thing they couldn't explain: the knife on the pavement. I went down to the parking lot at dawn. The police had searched the area but hadn't taped it off as a crime scene. I walked to the spot where I'd seen the knife fall, and there it was, partially hidden under a car, exactly where the figure had dropped it. A hunting knife with a curved blade, real, solid, stained with something dark along the edge. I called Officer Delgado. He arrived 20 minutes later with another officer. They bagged the knife, took photos, asked me not to touch anything else. "Where did this come from?" Delgado asked. "I saw it on the footage. The figure dropped it." "The figure that doesn't exist?" "I know how it sounds, but the knife is real. You're holding it." They took it to the lab. I spent the day in a haze, trying to work from home, but mostly just staring at my laptop screen. Darren knocked on my door around 3:00 p.m. "Hey, I heard they arrested Mrs. Hendricks. Is that true?" "Yeah, for the notes. Among other things." He looked troubled. "I always thought she was harmless, just a lonely old woman." "So did I. Makes you wonder who else in this building is hiding something, you know?" After he left, I thought about that. How many people walk past each other every day, smiling and nodding, while carrying secrets that would destroy them if anyone knew? When the lab results came back 3 days later, the stain on the blade was blood. Type B negative, not Mrs. Hendricks's type. They ran it through the database. It matched a missing person case from 6 months ago. A woman named Patricia Vance who disappeared from a grocery store parking lot 3 miles from our apartment complex. She'd never been found. Officer Delgado called me personally to tell me, "We're getting a warrant to search Mrs. Hendricks's apartment. This changes everything." "How?" "If this blood belongs to Patricia Vance, we're not just looking at harassment charges. We're looking at murder." They searched Mrs. Hendricks's apartment the next day. Found nothing at first. Then they pulled up the carpet in her bedroom. The floorboards underneath were stained with blood. Patricia Vance's blood. They found her body in the crawl space beneath the building, wrapped in plastic, decomposed beyond recognition, except for DNA and dental records. The news spread through the building like wildfire. Residents gathered in clusters in the parking lot, whispering. Some were already looking for new apartments. The building manager held an emergency meeting. I didn't go. Couldn't face the questions, the stares, the knowledge that I'd been the one to uncover everything. But that wasn't even the strangest part. The strange part was what they found in Mrs. Hendricks's apartment after the initial search. 17 notebooks filled with careful handwriting, dated entries going back 3 years. Officer Delgado brought copies to me a week later. Said I had a right to see them since I was mentioned throughout. She'd been planning this. Not just Patricia's murder. Everything. The notes on my car weren't random. She'd chosen me specifically because I'd been the one who found her dog dead in the parking lot 8 months ago. I'd called animal control, filed a report. The report that eventually led to her son admitting he'd had the dog euthanized because it was expensive to keep. She blamed me for losing the only thing she'd loved. The notes weren't about parking. They were about making me feel watched, unsafe, paranoid, breaking me down slowly until I was terrified to even leave my apartment. And it had worked. But the figure. The journal mentioned the figure. Entry after entry, describing how she could see it, how it followed her everywhere, how it told her things, showed her things, helped her. It showed me how to catch her. One entry read, dated the day before Patricia Vance disappeared. It showed me exactly how to do it, how to make her trust me, how to get her alone. It was so easy. It's always easier when someone shows you. Another entry, dated 3 months ago. It says there's someone else I need to deal with. The girl in 4C, the one who killed my dog. Not directly, but she started the chain. It says she needs to understand what she took from me. It says I should take something from her too. The final entry was dated the night before my car camera caught her. It says tomorrow night. Tomorrow night I show her. I let her see me. I let her see us, and then she'll finally understand. I read through all 17 notebooks over the course of 2 days, each one more disturbing than the last. She described Patricia Vance's murder in clinical detail, how she'd befriended her at the grocery store, how she'd invited her over for tea, how she'd drugged the tea and waited for Patricia to collapse, how the figure had stood in the corner of her apartment, watching, approving, how it had guided her hands as she used the knife. The psychiatrist who evaluated her said she'd been experiencing command hallucinations for months, possibly years. The figure was a manifestation of her psychosis, giving voice to violent thoughts she couldn't acknowledge as her own. But I kept thinking about that knife, real and solid and covered in Patricia Vance's blood. If the figure wasn't real, who killed Patricia? Mrs. Hendricks's lawyer tried to use the insanity defense. The trial lasted 3 weeks. I was called to testify about the footage, about the notes, about everything. The jury saw the journals, saw the careful planning, saw the way she'd hidden the body and evaded detection for months. They convicted her of first-degree murder. She's in a psychiatric facility now. Maximum security. The kind of place where people go and never come out. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. I got a letter from her 3 weeks after the trial ended. The return address was marked with her patient number instead of a name. I almost threw it away. But curiosity won out. The letter was short. 2 sentences in that same elegant handwriting I'd seen on the notes. Thank you for seeing me. Now it can see you too. I burned the letter that night, dropped it in my sink, and watched it curl and blacken and turn to ash. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm checking my car camera from bed, I see something moving in the background, just a shadow, just a trick of light. And I tell myself that's all it is. I tell myself that over and over until I finally fall asleep. But I've started parking in a different spot every night. And I've stopped looking at the footage unless I absolutely have to. Because sometimes, when I do look, I see the figure standing by the dumpsters, watching, waiting, and it's not following Mrs. Hendricks anymore. Last week, I found a note on my car. Same white paper, same precise fold, but different handwriting. Shakier, less elegant. It said, "I'm sorry. I showed it where to find you. I didn't mean to. I'm so sorry," postmarked from the psychiatric facility. I called Officer Delgado. He said he'd look into it, but Mrs. Hendricks wasn't allowed to send mail unsupervised. Someone must have smuggled it out for her. But then he said something that made my blood run cold. Actually, there's something I've been meaning to tell you. We found something else in her apartment during the final search. Another journal, hidden in a vent. We didn't release it to the public because, well, you'll see. He brought it to me the next day, made me sign papers saying I wouldn't share the contents with anyone. The journal was smaller than the others, older. The pages were yellowed and brittle. The first entry was dated 1987. The handwriting wasn't Mrs. Hendricks's. It was neater, more controlled. Found the girl today, late 20s, lives alone, parks in spot 4C. She's perfect. It chose her. It always knows. The entries continue, describing a woman named Dorothy Chen, describing how the writer watched her, followed her, left her notes about her parking. She's scared now. Good. It says fear makes them taste better. The final entry was dated October 15th, 1987. Tonight, it showed me how. The knife, the crawl space. No one will ever know. Under the entry was a newspaper clipping, yellowed with age. Local woman vanishes without trace. Dorothy Chen, 28, was last seen leaving her apartment complex on October 14th, 1987. Police are asking anyone with information to come forward. I looked at Officer Delgado. Who wrote this? We're still trying to identify the writer. The handwriting analysis is inconclusive, but he hesitated. Mrs. Hendricks moved into this building in 1988, apartment 3B, the same apartment she lives in now. She took over from whoever wrote this. That's what we think. The journal was in the apartment when she moved in. Maybe she found it. Maybe it influenced her. Or maybe what? Maybe she wasn't the first. And maybe she won't be the last. I thought about that note. I showed it where to find you. You need to move, Officer Delgado said quietly. Get out of this building. Today, if possible. I started looking at apartments that afternoon. Put in applications for 3 different places. All of them rejected me within days. Too many recent inquiries on my credit report. Too much instability. I was stuck. I increased my security. More cameras, better locks. I bought pepper spray and kept it on my keychain. Started parking under the brightest light in the lot. 2 weeks passed. Nothing happened. No notes. No figures. No strange occurrences. I started to relax. Started to think maybe it really was over. Then I got an email from the building manager. They were doing maintenance in the crawl space. Needed to access it from my apartment. Would tomorrow at 2 p.m. work? I said yes. The maintenance guy showed up right on time. Late 40s, heavyset, wearing a building maintenance uniform. He had a key to the crawl space access panel in my bedroom closet. This shouldn't take long, he said. Just need to check the pipes. I watched him open the panel and climb down, heard him moving around below. Then silence. Everything okay down there? I called. No response. Hello? Still nothing. I got down on my hands and knees and looked into the opening. The crawl space was dark. I couldn't see anything. Sir, are you all right? Then I heard it. Breathing. Not from the crawl space. From behind me. I turned around. The maintenance guy was standing in my bedroom doorway. I thought you were... I looked back at the crawl space. Empty. Thought I was where? He asked. You were just down there. I saw you climb down. He looked at me like I was crazy. I haven't gone down yet. I was in the bathroom. My mouth went dry. Then who... We both looked at the crawl space opening. He grabbed his flashlight and shined it down. The beam caught something, a piece of paper folded precisely in half. He climbed down to get it, handed it to me. I unfolded it with shaking hands. You can't run from it. It's patient. It can wait. The handwriting was mine. The maintenance guy looked at the note, then at me. Is this some kind of joke? I didn't write this. That's your handwriting though, right? I couldn't answer, couldn't explain. He finished his work quickly and left. I sat on my bed staring at the note, comparing it to my actual handwriting. It was identical. Every loop, every curve, every small imperfection. I called my brother, asked if I could come stay with him for a while. He heard the panic in my voice and said yes immediately. I packed that night, called my brother, asked if I could stay with him until I found a new place. He said yes without asking questions. I was loading the last box into my car when I felt it, that crawling sensation of being watched. I turned around. The parking lot was empty. No shadows by the dumpsters. No figures lurking between cars. Just the building, dark except for a few lit windows. One of those windows was 3B, Mrs. Hendricks' apartment. It had been empty since her arrest, but there was someone standing in the window, watching me. I got in my car and drove away. Haven't been back since. My brother lives in a house in the suburbs. Safe, normal, no assigned parking spots or crawl spaces or journals hidden in vents. But 3 days ago, I found a note on my car. White paper, precise fold, blue ink. You can't run from it. It's patient. It can wait. I called Officer Delgado. He said he'd send a patrol car. But then he asked me something strange. Have you been having any hallucinations? Seeing things that might not be there? No. Why? Mrs. Hendricks died yesterday. Heart attack in her cell. But before she died, she told the guards something. She said to warn you. She said the figure doesn't need her anymore. It has someone new. I hung up, sat in my brother's driveway staring at the note. The handwriting was mine. I don't remember writing it. Don't remember folding it. Don't remember placing it on my own car. But it was definitely my handwriting. My brother came out and found me sitting there. Asked if I was okay. I showed him the note. That's your writing, he said. I know. Did you write this? I don't know. He got me inside, made me tea, sat with me while I tried to explain everything. The notes, Mrs. Hendricks, the figure, the journals, all of it. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Have you been sleeping? He finally asked. Not really. When's the last time you got a full night? I couldn't remember. You need to see someone, he said gently. A therapist, maybe a doctor. This kind of stress, this kind of trauma, it does things to people. You think I'm imagining it? I think you've been through something horrible and your brain is trying to process it. Sometimes that processing looks like this. Maybe he was right. Maybe the figure was never real. Maybe Mrs. Hendricks really was just a sick old woman acting alone. Maybe the journals were just the ravings of someone lost in their own delusions. Maybe I was starting to get lost too. I made an appointment with a therapist, started sleeping better. The notes stopped. No more figures in the shadows. 3 months passed. I found a new apartment, started a new job, began to feel like myself again. Then last week, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Just my name and my brother's address, written in careful, elegant handwriting. Blue ink. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a journal. Brand new. Blank pages. Except for the first page. Your turn. I'm writing this now because I need someone to know, to document what's happening in case something happens to me. The figure is real. It's always been real. And Mrs. Hendricks didn't pass it to me. I think I've had it all along. I think I'm the one who's been leaving the notes, and I have no idea what I'm going to do next. But last night, I woke up at 3:47 a.m., exact same time Mrs. Hendricks used to leave the notes. I was standing in my brother's driveway. In my hand was a piece of white paper, folded precisely in half. I don't remember writing it. I don't remember going outside. But when I unfolded it, I recognized the handwriting immediately. It said, found the girl today, early 30s, lives alone, parks in the driveway. She's perfect. It chose her. It always knows. My brother's next-door neighbor. I'm writing this because I don't know what else to do. I don't know if I can stop it. I don't know if I want to stop it. The figure stands in the corner of my room now, every night, watching me, and I'm starting to understand what it wants. I'm starting to hear what it's saying, and God help me. I'm starting to listen.